Hey, what's up everybody? Thought it could be fun to go through a little archival piece today. I wanted to, in a way, spin some CAD from a 3D print from an old project from, 2009 maybe, 2010. This was supposed to be the Wade VI for Converse, which never came out. So back in the 2000s, Converse sponsored Dwayne Wade. I was design director at the time, and I personally worked on what was supposed to be the Wade VI. So this represented a pretty drastic change in the line, going towards something that felt almost like a retro shoe. The goal was to make something that felt like it came out of the archives, that never was released, but still had all the performance of a new shoe. So I worked on this design with developer Alpert. 3D modeler on this was Bryan Cioffi, who is now a vice president of design over at Reebok, to work through some of the interesting performance aspects of this design. And then I worked on the outsole with the head of advanced design for Converse at the time, who was Gary Duclose, who had previously been VP of design over at Timberland. So you could see some really interesting geometry going on this outsole, right? So what was going on here is this was a thin layer of rubber that had this kind of wavy herringbone pattern on it, which would be great traction for on court. But behind each one of these kind of domes was a very soft ball, basically, of polyurethane, of a PU foam compound. So basically each one of these spheres would kind of deflect and smush down as you stepped on the court. And then this whole side piece here was meant to be kind of a translucent window so you could see into that. On top of that system of polyurethane spheres was this injection EVA midsole. So you'd have kind of this double kind of cushion ride. The upper itself had these really kind of simple classic lines, but we were using a lot of interesting materials at the time to kind of pull this off. We're really pulling from a lot of kind of archival products like the Converse Weapon, but there are also just some really crazy Converses from the 80s that I wanted to pull from. And on the tongue here, you could see this kind of stylized, like it's halfway towards a W for Wade and Roman numeral 6, because this was going to be the 6th in that line. So this was a Z-Core starch 3D print, which we were using a lot at the time to kind of evaluate 3D models, and then obviously you could print in colors, so it was really nice to evaluate color blocking. And then this was an initial sample, so very close to the 3D model. You can see here, you can get side to side. I mean, this was mainly due to just how good Brian was at developing 3D models. He would actually scan an old shoe, tape it all up so it was smooth, and scan it, and then use that as a base, like a guide to develop the CAD for the new shoe. But here you can see this was an early prototype. Pretty close, a couple of changes. So we had to really change kind of some of the geometry going on in the sidewall. You could see that clear window to those spheres in there. So this is just this is clear rubber that was kind of insert molded into this rubber outsole. I also added a Converse star chevron logo, so another kind of clear moment into those spheres, but we still kept the geometry here. And then I added kind of a rubber bumper that went all the way around the perimeter, just to give kind of a nice contact area for lateral movement. As we move up into that EVA midsole, you can see I also added a few flex notches near the metatarsal head so that could flex a little bit more. And then just adding a couple little crafted details, right? Wade's number is number 3, so 3 little perf holes here for a little ventilation. These 3 hand-stitched little reinforcement stitches on the side. Again, another piece of the 3 motif, just this high-frequency welded little areas to give it a little detail there, make it feel a little more finished. And another row of perfs along the vamp. This is going to aid in flexibility, believe it or not, just relieving a little bit of material there. And then I wanted to have this kind of traditional kind of feeling to the upper, so I added this stitch through. So this little stitch goes all the way through, the outer, the foam, and then the lining. So you get this little basically puffed area that goes all the way through the shoe. You can see how that W6 implemented on the tongue, and using this kind of nice thicker leather back here again just makes it feel like a higher crafted shoe, right? Versus just typical kind of basketball shoe materials. And then in the back here, you see the Wade logo, which was high frequency welded in. And then again, 3 stitches here. This is just, again, this is an area you're really gonna touch the shoe when you pull it on. So it just adds a little bit of a tactile feeling back here. So this shoe never came out as the Wade VI, but it did get released. We were able to basically save it, pulling all the Wade branding off of it, because Dwayne switched from Converse over to the Jordan brand, and then eventually left the Jordan brand, leaving the Nike kind of ecosystem altogether. But we were able to release the shoe just because we felt like it was a cool product. It got on the feet of some other NBA athletes, but nobody as big of a name as Wade, obviously. One of the other little details I really loved in this prototype that I don't think made it to production was added this stitch through the EVA. So this is something that came from an 80s shoes. You see a lot of 80s shoes which had a rubber cup sole. They would stitch it to the upper, and it just kind of adds a nice little detail, a little something that feels a little bit crafted, and you can add a little color pop to it. Also, when you zoom in on this area, you can see some of the texture play going on. So each one of these textures has to be designed and specified. So you notice each one of these little areas has a bit of a different texture, and controlling that helps you kind of show off the lines of the shoe. Notice here I left it smooth. Again, just kind of wanted to show off that shelf there. Also helps here, it helps the logo to be more clear. The logo is debossed in the EVA, but it's textured here where it's high, and it's smooth where it's low. So again, just really helps to show that. A couple other little details, these little layers here. I love this leather we were able to find. This is called a pull-up leather, where they coat it and then crack it. Which gives it an interesting texture. I wish it had come out like this. It wasn't meant to be, but also really great to see how close we were from this initial 3D model and 3D print to the final. Still love that texture on that outsole. That would have been amazing.